All right, today we're going to ask the question, what is your hour really worth? So before I go into this, the first thing I wanted to say is that I'm going to throw some numbers at you. So I'm going to go really slow. The feedback I've gotten before when presenting this information is that it's over a lot of people's heads. Even some of the greatest minds in the world right now don't really understand this. It's a lot to wrap your mind around. So I'm going to go slow. I'm just going to go, one number at a time, and just let everybody catch up, to what is already out there, what is, trying to be expressed. Over the past year, I've been doing presentations about reverse market mechanics, which includes time to create a more equitable economic system. I'm going to be re-exploring that, but not for another year or two, because like I said, the feedback right away has been, one of confusion, a lot of confusion. So I'm going to ask you in the next couple minutes just to suspend judgment, come along with me, on these observations. And that's all they are. It's just observations. I'm going to put together a narrative, and whether you agree with it, disagree with it, just suspend the judgment to, come along with me. And it's the kind of thing where if you see and understand it, like me, it's kind of like you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. Possibilities start to open up. So I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure that I'm articulating this, that yes, there is confusion around this. And yes, I'm asking for your patience, and, we'll go through this one step at a time. And then I'll talk more about my conclusions with this. And the intention is really just to start the conversation. This is not about right or wrong. It's not about trying to convince you that this is the way. This is a possibility, and it just requires a deeper conversation. It just requires people to show up. So here we go. We're going to go into, what is your hour really worth? So that was a question we asked earlier in this presentation. So first, I want to acknowledge the expected global population in a year. We're going to be in 2022 in the next couple of days. Next year is 2023. The expected global population is going to be about 8 trillion. Right now, we're hovering around the 8 billion. Okay, let me correct myself, 8 billion. Right now, we're hovering around 7.9 billion. So we're looking at a expected population of 8 billion. Now, there's a lot of people who disagree with even that. So I'm asking you to suspend judgment for a moment and accept that, maybe there are 8 billion people in this world, and all of them are having an experience, a subjective experience of time. So let's talk about time. So give or take some leap years, we can agree that there are 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So again, that is our psychological experience of time, how we count things. So for every year, that's 8,790 hours a year. Okay, still with me? All right, so everybody's experiencing 8,790 hours a year. So we'll take that over here. Now, the expected average life expectancy is 72 years. Obviously, some live longer, some live not as long, but the accepted average amount globally is 72 years. So you take those 8,790 hours a year times 72 years for the average life expectancy. So again, some more, some less. You're looking at 632,880 hours experienced within a lifetime, an average lifetime. Okay, so I'm going to pause there for a moment, take that in for a moment. If you live to be 72 years old, you would have experienced 632,880 hours. Okay, so now let's take that times an 8 billion. I keep saying that because I'm so used to dealing in trillions and quadrillions. 8 billion times 632,880 hours per person, per capita. You're looking at 5 quadrillion hours, 5.08 quadrillion hours experienced over 72 years with an average population of 8 billion. Okay, so let that sink in for a moment. 5 quadrillion hours. So we're all experiencing 1 hour at a time, 1 moment at a time. How much is that hour worth? Well, to me, it's priceless. Time is priceless. Time is an asset. But how much is it worth to the governing agencies, to the corporations, to the governments? How much is that hour worth? Let's look at that for a moment. 5.08 quadrillion hours. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure that against the $300 trillion global debt. So global debt reached 300 trillion earlier this year, and it is continuing, it is inflating, it is ballooning. So we're looking at the expected population next year. This is probably going to be a lot more, but we're going to deal with what's here right now for this calculation. Okay, I've read some articles that say that debt is expected to even go into the quadrillions within the next 10 to 20 years. So we're going to look at the $300 trillion debt up against the 5 quadrillion hours, 0.059 of a dollar per hour. So what that is it's 6 cents an hour. That is what your hour is worth. I'm going to pause here for a moment again. When I say time is an asset, I mean that. Except time is not our asset. It's their asset. It's the government, it's the corporations. We're their assets, and our time is their asset. So I want to reflect also that it doesn't matter how successful your business is. It doesn't matter how financially successful you are. It doesn't matter which politician gets elected to which office. And it doesn't matter which country is winning which war. This is the real game. This is what's really happening. This is the extractive economy. So as I've been looking into the different levels of the law, natural law, sovereign rights, administrative law, law of the land, law of the sea, we are given sovereign rights. And one of those sovereign rights is the right over our time and our minds. I would think a case could be made that this whole system is a violation of our sovereign rights to time because the clock keeps ticking. 6 cents per person, $480 million an hour. Think about that for a moment. Just in an hour, the global population gets $480 million harvested out of them. 11.5 billion per day, which is about 4.2 trillion per year. So I want to also acknowledge that what I'm telling you right now, that's just a snapshot of today. It's going up, so that time as an asset to someone else is just going to escalate. So before I stop here for today, I also want to acknowledge that, yes, there is a current GDP of 100 trillion. So what does that really mean? Okay, so what it means is that maybe instead of a $300 trillion debt, we're looking at a $200 trillion debt. And instead of 6 cents per hour, 4 cents per hour. That might mean something to you, it might not, but there's an intervention that, that is arising. There is an intervention, that is being called for at the moment. And that intervention is not going to happen on the very big. Because again, the millions and the billions of dollars that are being exchanged through mergers, acquisitions, everything is happening on the big, the scale of the big. That's the illusion. That's the stuff that really doesn't matter. It's the relationship between time and this financial system. That's the real game, the real construct that we can reimagine. So yeah, I think that's all I have for today. What do we do about it? Well, tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about stewardship. What does stewardship mean to you? And how we can impact the small, how we can change, renegotiate the value of the hour. Again, the value of the hour is only 6 cents going to someone else. How do we change that so that it's coming back to us? And how do we change the system? Or how do we ask the questions? What is it going to take to change the system to renegotiate the value of an hour? And is that possible? And that only is possible in the realm of the small. Again, the power is in small groups. Because when you try to go out there, when you try to influence millions of people, you're trying to reach them through, a media system that is already controlled by people who don't want the system to change. So you start with who you're communicating with, who resonates most with you. What are the deeper conversations? Where do we have to start? Do we have to start with appreciation? Most people do have to start there. And then bring it in through the possibility, the invitations, the dissent, the responsibility, and then the commitments. What are the commitments? And it's all valuable. All of the conversations are valuable. So we've created a time bank where you can log every single moment that you spend in those conversations and how to renegotiate the value of everyone's hour. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. Thank you very much. And in 24 hours, I'll be back.